Why do most Fakemon artists emulate the official style? I mean that in terms of the line work, the shading, the texturing. In terms of the creature design itself, of course you would want to emulate the look of the official mons, but why render them in this style? Real Pokemon don't have to look like this. In fact, they rarely ever do, whether in fan art or official media. We usually call this the Sugimori style because it's ultimately derived from the art that Ken Sugimori did for all Pokemon in Generation 3. It was, as far as we can tell, done with a combination of traditional and digital media, and the art in this style appears in promotional materials, game guides, trading cards, merch. But it isn't what Pokemon always look like. Before Generation 3, the official art was done by hand in watercolors, and after Gen 3 as well, the style has drifted noticeably from where it began since it's now done by a number of different artists working, I think, entirely digitally. In-game, of course, the Pokemon have never looked like this. They were pixel art at first, but even now that we have 3D HD games, the models aren't rendered to look like this. The styles vary even more if you look at side games and spin-offs. And of course, if you look at the anime, the manga, all of the different kinds of art that appear on the trading card games, or fan art in general, it's clear that Pokemon are not tied to a specific style. When it comes to official Pokemon, the creature itself is recognizable. A Pikachu is a Pikachu no matter how you draw it. So if real Pokemon are style independent, why is this the style of choice for artists who aren't even making real Pokemon?
Well, I think the main reason is for views.
This is Jack from the YouTube channel Subjectively. He and his friends make all kinds of art, but they focus on Pokemon.
That sounds superficial, but I do honestly think that when you're making content, you want to get noticed, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Elesteva agrees. He's a Fakemon artist on Twitter and Instagram, and you've probably seen some of his work on Lockston and Hoops and Hip Hop's channels.
Se trata de imitar ese estilo más que todo para que la gente pueda reconocerlo, ¿no? Para llamar la atención de las personas y para poder sentirte tú mismo que tu arte pueda ser parte de una franquicia tan grande como la de Pokémon.
The best way to do that in the Pokemon community is try to emulate the style as closely as possible, because that spreads around and people click on it and they're like, oh, whoa, is that real? And then they see it and they're like, oh, it should be real.
Todos los fans que son los artistas que dibujamos, es una ilusión para nosotros, ¿no? Que algo que nosotros queremos pueda ser emplazado perfectamente y se vea como algo original.
When you hire a cartoonist or an animator to work on your own cartoon, they'll have their own different art style because everyone has their own curated art style, but you want them to make sure to get the character on model and get to as close to the feel of the show in general.
This is Vergolophus, a Pokemon artist on Twitter who likes obscure lore and occasionally draws Fakemon.
This is a bit of a tangent, but that's exactly what I feel is why people choose to try to replicate the Pokemon style as much as they can. Because, I mean, it's not only just one artist, which is Sugimori. There's so many different artists working for Pokemon and designing for Pokemon, but they all feel like Pokemon because they all try to center themselves to the base art style of the game. It's kind of like this foundation to make something feel like a Pokemon. That's one of the basic blueprints to it.
I find this very curious. I mean, of course you would want your Fakemon to feel like a Pokemon, but that's not something that you accomplish exclusively through the art style. The underlying creature design style is hugely important, like making sure you get the right level of detail, the right balance of cartoon and realism, the right eye design or whatever. But even on the side of art style, what we consider to look like Pokemon has changed over the years. Back in the day, if you wanted to make a convincing Fakemon design, you made a sprite. That's how fake leaks used to be done.
So many fake leaks.
If you're trying to be deceptive, you have to get the art style right. So maybe how Pokemon reveal new Pokemon has an effect on our collective understanding of what it means to look like a Pokemon. In the Gen 3 to Gen 5 era, we often saw new Pokemon in screenshots from the games in development, or as they came out in Japan before coming to the West, so sprites were a good option. More recently, we see a lot of Pokemon revealed through game trailers, so often the most convincing fakes are 3D models. Or outside of the official reveals, the Gen 7 starter leaks popularized full character reference sheets.
It's outstanding how many people can really confuse someone and be like, is this real? Is this fake? To the point where Alolan starters, months in advance, I already knew that, okay, this Decidueye, Incineroar, and Primarina, those are the real starters. I know that these are the final evolutions. But people were like, no, this is just a really good fake. We don't know what's fake or what's real anymore.
But this whole time, the official art, which despite evolving a bit over the years has remained fairly consistent, has been a significant element of new Pokemon reveals. Nowadays, they get posted to the official website as soon as the trailer drops. Until Generation 6, maybe, they were often revealed first on the CoroCoro magazine.
Because fans of the franchise are conditioned to sort of see the official artwork first and then variations on it, it's easier for Fakemon artists to try to replicate that style as a way to pitch their ideas initially, because that's the style that the fans are going to be most receptive to.
It seems that the modern Sugimori art style is where we've landed in something looking like a Pokemon, at least for a significant portion of the fan base, to the point that using this style can help to mask defects with the creature design itself.
Algo que es muy importante también es que al momento de comenzar a dibujar, imitar el estilo, por ejemplo, estudiar el estilo de line art o el estilo de sombreado o el estilo general de ilustración, ayuda bastante a engañar el ojo del receptor, ¿no? En un comienzo, tal vez la criatura no parece tanto Pokémon, pero con el estilo ayuda a acercarse un poco más a él.
I don't want to imply that there aren't artists out there who play fast and loose with the style, or who don't use it at all. There absolutely are. I've seen several artists sharing concepts for regional forms, for example, in completely unique styles, which is awesome. But regional forms, evolutions, pre-evolutions, they all still rely on recognizable elements of the Pokemon that they're related to. Any regional form is still going to be recognizably the same Pokemon regardless of style. But for a completely original Fakemon, it's much trickier.
I mean, I've been drawing, quote, in the Pokemon style since I was a kid, right? Because I grew up liking Pokemon, I grew up liking art, so I would try to, draw Pokemon that I already knew, and then would come up with ideas of my own. And I always tried to figure out what made it look more like a Pokemon. And that was partially the designs themselves and partially the way it's stylized.
Style recognition really is such an important aspect to Pokemon, which is why maybe there's some Fakemon who don't always translate very well to feeling like a Pokemon. Like, they're a good design. They could be a really good character design. But when it comes to official series or like giant brand recognition, everything has to look congruent or unified.
Yo puedo dibujar a Shelder o a Pikachu o a Charizard en cualquier otro estilo y todo el mundo lo va a conocer, ¿no? O sea, no hay manera de que se equivoquen. En cambio, un Fakemon, creo que por obligación de arranque, si lo quieres llamar Fakemon como tal, tiene que estar apegado a ese estilo, ¿no?
But you see, I don't think that a Fakemon needs to use this style, certainly not in principle.
Anyone can make their own Fakemon and just draw it as in their own style, in their own personal style, and get away with it. People can kind of understand that there's a basic shape and color principality when it comes to Pokemon.
Again, the problem comes back to how you can sell that to fans. I think there are fans out there that are a lot more open to varieties in style. I think these are the fans that are more interested in the art side of it. But the fans that are interested in Pokemon, who like those videos that are just sort of like Regis of every type or evolutions of every type, or what if Godzilla was a Pokemon, that kind of sort of very base level subject exploration. Those fans, I think, are a lot less inclined to be open towards new ways of rendering Pokemon.
Si tú me dices, ¿qué tal si mañana empiezas a dibujar Fakemons en otro estilo, en un estilo personal o más propio, completamente distinto al Sugimori o al estilo que usan en Pokémon actualmente? Siento que no sería algo muy productivo para mí.
And that's actually part of the reason I wanted to get better at the Pokemon style, because when we first started making Pokemon-related content, the biggest critique we would always get on our videos is, this doesn't look official.
Salirte de ahí es muy complicado, al menos para la audiencia o para la gente que te sigue, es muy complicado de ver. Un estilo completamente nuevo. Y sí, seguramente podría igual gustar, pero siempre está, los fans siempre quieren que, te van a hacer el típico comentario, esto no parece un Pokémon, esto no parece un Pokémon.
It makes it hard for you to just make that kind of content when the only critiques you're getting on the video is just, this doesn't look like the official Pokemon style.
That seems to be a pretty big factor here. If significant portions of your audience are simply not going to accept your design as a believable Fakemon unless you use this art style, then using anything else would pose a significant barrier to your ideas being well received. But that kind of comment specifically about the art style not looking enough like Pokemon isn't one that I've received very often, maybe not at all. So I wanted to put it to the test with a little experiment. With the help of my patrons, I came up with a Fakemon concept, something completely original. I did my best to capture the Pokemon creature design style. I made sure that the concept and the design were multi-layered. I gave them a bit of character and personality, and I even gave them stats modeled on real Pokemon and Pokedex entries that helped to clarify the concept and justify some of my choices. Basically, I did everything I could to make Begier and Noble convincing Pokemon designs, except draw them in the official art style. If you've been around my channel for a bit, you'll probably recognize this as a simplified version of the style that I usually use for my Fakemon, Pokemon redesigns, and regional type swaps. It's a style that I love drawing in. I developed it by taking inspiration from some of my favorite game styles like Wind Waker, Okami, and Pokemon, especially the sprite style from Generation 2. I can't imagine that anyone looking at this art would think that I was even remotely going for the Sugimori art style, but I hope that I capture at least a little bit of the feel of Pokemon more generally. Anyway, I shared this art of Begier and Noble everywhere that I could, as a short here on YouTube, on Twitter, and on the r/Fakemon subreddit. I also asked for a bit of a boost from today's guests, and I waited for the responses to come in. Well, the results are intriguing. None of my posts got great engagement. At the time of recording, the post on Reddit has only a couple of comments, the tweet has 6, and the short has 14. But the comments on them are all positive. A few critiques, as you'd expect, but nobody rejecting them as Pokemon, and nobody criticizing the art style. But Jack shared the art of Begier and Noble on a community post on his channel, and that got a ton of engagement. Naturally, the reach was much bigger than anything I could do on my own. 65 comments at the time of recording. Still overwhelmingly positive response, but in that comment section, there were a few people talking about the art style specifically not looking like Pokemon. Isn't that interesting? But what does it mean? Is it that my audience is just generally more open to art style variants than Jack's? Is it that you have to reach a certain size of audience before the art style purists show up? Is it that I hobbled my own potential reach by choosing a different style? I don't know. I never said this was a good experiment. It's not like I could do A/B testing on it. But considering those results and everything that my guests have told me today, it seems likely that had I drawn them in the official art style, my designs could have reached more people. All artists that make Fakemon can draw in other styles, but the potential for engagement creates a huge bias when choosing styles.
It's almost exclusively just for my videos, because it's a type of content that obviously people enjoy. It's probably the most popular subject matter that we do on our channel.
So should you draw in the Sugimori style? It really depends on what you're going for.
Si yo soy un artista que publico criaturas, no Facebook, dibujo criaturas con un estilo único, es bastante más complicado que yo crezca en redes. No lo hago para crecer necesariamente, no es que me obliguen, o sea, de hecho a mí me causa ilusión dibujar Facebook porque es una franquicia que yo amo. Pero es así, ¿no? O sea, la manera más inteligente, por así decirlo, de poder ganar seguidores y poder crecer como artista en redes. Es posible hacerlo, pero siento que no sería algo tan bueno que digamos, no ayudaría mucho a tu crecimiento.
But maybe growth isn't your goal. Maybe you just want to draw things you like.
I think for me, if someone wants to use the official shading and the official line art and everything, that's all the power to them. For some reason, I struggle like a little bit. I try to do it, but because there's so many people who already do it and I just do it as a hobby or whenever I have a great idea, I just say, you know what? I'm me. I'm not someone who dedicates their life to posting Fakemon. I could just use the line art and shading that I'm used to, but still try to make it feel like, hey, this is maybe if one of the artists was drawing a Pokemon, but they were just using a different brush. I still try to get it kind of close to the art style, but I don't have to worry about it too much. It's kind of a taxing thing to get as far away from your own style and like just make it as Pokemon as you can.
I think that's where I fall. My personal inclination is to make everything that I do original. Taking inspiration from something or using it as a starting point and then spinning off into my own thing, that's fine, but imitation for the sake of imitation doesn't feel right to me. So I'm gonna keep drawing in whatever style I feel like. If that means I make some really cool art but very few people see it, well, that kind of sucks, but I think it's better than the alternative. Thank you to Jack, Vergolophus, and Elesteva for taking the time to talk to me about this. Links to all of their relevant accounts are in the description, so make sure to check them out. Thank you also to all of the Libros who support my work through Patreon and YouTube channel memberships. Special thank you to Kyle J. Oldfield, Nicholas Verga, and Null, who all became patrons this month, Cinnamon Sugar Courtney, who increased her pledge, and as always, to luxury patron Ethan from Chicago. You can become one of the Libros by clicking the join button or going to patreon.com/UmbrianLibris for some really cool perks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter.